Onsaved instance state is a callback where you can save data that you might need in case the Android OS destroys your app. Now, if we take a look at the diagram, onsaved instance state occurs here, after the activity has been stopped. It's called when your app goes into the background and not when the app's actually restarting. You should think of the onsaved instance state call as a safety measure. It gives you a chance to save a small amount of information to a bundle as your activity exits the foreground. Now, it saves it here just in case it's needed. The system doesn't wait to save the data till later because when the OS is actually shutting down your app, it's pretty strained already. Let's go ahead and take a look at some code.
Okay, so here I am in the main activity, and what I'm going to want to do now is override onsaved instance state. So I'm going to go ahead and use the keyboard shortcut for all platforms, which is Control-O, which opens up this handy dandy window, and I'm going to start typing onsave instance state. And I actually don't want the first one, I want the second one here, so just with the outstate bundle. I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to go ahead and move this down to my other lifecycle methods down below. Okay, so the only thing I want to do here is I want to go ahead and add a timber log statement. And now I'm curious to see what actually happens, so I'm going to go ahead and run my app. Okay, so I get the normal startup callbacks, and now I'm going to go ahead and put my activity in the background. And if I take a look over here, after onStop is called, onsaved instance state is called. And you can see that this is happening as soon as I put my activity into the background. Okay, so here I am back in the code, and that bundle that I was talking about before is this right here, this outstate bundle. Remember that this bundle here is a collection of key value pairs. So I could actually store something I care about, like the revenue, in this bundle. And I'll do that by calling put int, and then it's going to ask me for a key and a value. So the key for this bundle is always going to be a string. So I'm going to put key revenue. And then you can easily store any sort of primitive value. So in this case, I'm putting an int in, which is the revenue. So I'm going to go ahead and put my revenue value in there. One other thing to note is that you should always call this super method. There's a lot of data that's just automatically stored about the activity, like the edit text state that I was talking about before. If you forget to call this, then that isn't automatically saved. Now beyond integers, we can see here there's a lot of other things that you can put in your bundle. And if you want to put an arbitrary object in there, you can have that object implement the parcelable interface, which basically defines a way to serialize and deserialize data. Now since the system has this bundle in RAM, it's best practice to keep the data that's actually in this bundle small. The size of this bundle is limited. It varies from device to device, but generally you should store far less than 100 kilobytes. If you start to go over that amount, you'll risk crashing your app with the transaction too large exception. Okay, but at this moment I've only put this small integer. So how do I get it out on the other side? When your activity restarts due to process shutdown, there are two things that will change. Let me scroll up to onCreate. Now in onCreate, that bundle that you saved is going to be available here as this bundle input that's passed in. If your activity was starting fresh, as in none of this onsaved instance state business, this bundle in onCreate is going to be null. So, by that logic, when it's not null, you know that you're actually recreating the activity. The other thing that happens is that this onRestore instance state callback method is called, also with that bundle. Now most of the time, you're going to choose to restore the activity state in onCreate. OnRestore instance state is called after onStart, so it becomes useful if you ever need to restore something from this bundle after onStart is called. But in this case, I'm going to scroll up back to onCreate, and I'm going to restore the data from my bundle here. So a common pattern is to check if the saved instance state bundle, which again was passed in up here, is not equal to null. If it isn't, then you're going to go ahead and get everything that was stored in this bundle. So let me scroll down and go ahead and do that right now. I need to remember to pass in the exact same key that I use here, which I used down here actually to save it in onsaved instance state. To ensure that's the case, I'm actually going to replace this with a constant, which, if I scroll up to the top of the class, I'm going to go ahead and define. Okay, so once I've defined this key, I'm going to just go scroll down, and I will also use it here. Okay, so once I'm sure I'm pulling out the same correct information, I can actually get it and put it in a variable, like my revenue variable. And once I have the revenue that was stored in the bundle, down here, when I actually set the UI to have the correct revenue value, I'm going to use that revenue that I just got from the bundle. Okay, so I'm essentially restoring one value, this revenue value here. What I want you to do is give it a try for yourself. There's two more pretty important values for this app. Those are the number of desserts sold here, and the current time of the dessert timer. In Onsaved instance state, you should save both of those values in the outstate bundle. And then back here at onCreate, you should get those values back and use them to recreate the state of the UI. Okay, good luck.